The dim hum of the colony ship's engines vibrated through the deck plating, a relentless whisper of their isolation in the void. Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrests of her command chair, knuckles blanching against the scarred leather. At 42 she was all hard lines, cropped hair, a jagged scar along her jaw from a long-ago mining mishap on Luna, and her crew had learned not to challenge her under fire. The view screen shimmered with distant starlight, but the true threat glowed in the diagnostics. A fusion core unraveling, starved of the rare isotopes that held it steady. Status Reyes? Ilara's voice sliced through the bridge's murmur, calm yet laced with the weariness of endless isolation. Ensign Marco Reyes, the engineer, swiped sweat from his brow with a grime-smeared arm. Young and lean, his easy smile masked a tireless intensity as he bent over his console. Cores limping at 30%, cap 48 hours max before the fields fail. Storage is dry, the last probe returned empty from that asteroid field. Lieutenant Kira Chen leaned against the bulkhead, arms folded, her sharp gaze sweeping the displays. The navigator, ever vigilant, always verified paths twice before raising alarms. We can't drift indefinitely. Nearest relays in the Orion arm, but powerless, we're phantoms. The Galactic Concordance won't even register our absence. Ilara nodded, options churning in her mind. Humanity's reach had been a faint echo against the vast domains of elder species. The hive-minded crystalline vexery, the storm-like nomadic Krell spanning sectors. A decade back, when the Concordance labeled human worlds irrelevant for their crude engines and fragile biology, they'd severed trade and tech flows. No isotopes. No packs. Just outposts like theirs, surviving on raw human cleverness. Options? Ilara commanded, rising to pace the cramped bridge. The air recyclers rasped, drawing in the sharp, metallic bite of strained machinery. Reyes straightened, a spark of hope in his eyes. Reroute auxiliary to the core, buys time. But it'll scorch the basics. Life support goes first. Chin shook her head. Or hail the Concordance. Beg for help. But after they abandoned us? They'd mock the plea. Ilara's jaw clenched. Begging ran counter to her core. She'd steered them through asteroid barrages and solar tempests with fixes no machine could dream up. No hails. Reyes, initiate the reroute. Chin, chart to the closest uncharted system. Anything with resource promise. We evolve or perish here. As Reyes plunged back into his readouts, sparks leaping from a frayed connection, Ilara fixed on the stars. The galaxy had dismissed them, but humans didn't vanish without a fight. Not under her command. Elena gripped the armrest of her command chair as the stellar nomad shuddered through the nebulous fringes. The hull creaked under ionized particle barrages, a piercing whine grating her nerves. Marco bent over the engineering console, muttered Spanish odes, his hands blurring across holographic controls. The nebulous storms outstripped their scans, viciously so. A simple evasion of Alliance patrols had morphed into a lightning-veiled gauntlet, jamming every sensor. Shields at 80%, Marco reported, voice taut yet even. Sweat gleamed on his brow under the crimson emergency glow. The careful sort, he double-checked every equation, but frustration cracked through now. Harder on the engines and we cascade. This haze is torching the relays. Elena nodded, gaze locked on the viewport's churning purples and electric blues, a beast alive with fury. Humans in a galaxy that had discarded them decades prior, tenacious vermin, the envoys had sneered before the Great Withdrawal. Earth and its outposts had retreated, weary of interstellar scraps. Now black market murmurs hinted at the Alliance fracturing under hidden perils, and they, freelance haulers turned uneasy heroes, ferried prototype shield tech that could shift the balance. Or doom them. Helm, thread the thinner bands, target that gap at 240, she directed. The navigator, wiry jacks full of bluster and unbreakable will, flashed a thumbs up. Quick with tension-breaking jests, his grin had vanished, brow furrowed in focus. The ship jolted into the breach, engines battling gravitic swirls. For an instant, escape teased them, the storms parted, stars winking through. Elena drew a breath, tasting ozone-heavy recycled air. Then alarms shrieked. Relays frying. Marco yelled, fist pounding the console. Sparks burst from a panel, lights stuttering. The nebula concealed a plasma rogue wave, ramming their side like a hammer. The nomad whirled, dampeners howling. Jax fought the controls, knuckles pale. Spin contained barely. But we're dropping in this drift. Elena unbuckled, striding to Marco's station in 3 steps. Reroute auxiliary. We stall, we're done. Way ahead, he snarled, wrenching open an access hatch with a belted tool. Wires hissed. He ripped a cluster free, splicing with swift precision. But the hit ran deep, scorching the secondary core they'd scavenged post-pirate skirmish last sector. Smoke billowed, sharp and suffocating. The viewport swelled with crackling energy walls rushing close. A direct strike would crumple shields, ripping the ship apart. Elena's thoughts raced. Jettison cargo? No, their edge, the Alliance envoy's covert gift. Force through? Madness. Marco options, she said, voice a steady anchor. He looked up, eyes keen through the smog. Vent plasma manually, forge a buffer. 30 seconds tops. But someone's suiting up for the external valves. Jack swiveled. I'll go. You hold her. Elena glared. No. You're our drift buster. Marco. He was up, snagging an EVA suit from the locker. On it. Jax sequenced the vents, synced to the surge. As Marco helmeted, Elena gripped his shoulder. The nomad heaved, slamming her into the bulkhead. Ribs throbbed, but she shoved the pain aside. This raw adaptation had sustained humans when the stars turned cold, fierce, unbowed. The airlock hissed, Marco's comm crackled. Launching. Feels like fire swimming out here. External feed showed his suited form gliding the hull, nebula light bathing him in spectral hues. Plasma bolts arced, void assassins. He hit the first valve, wrench battling iced seals. The ship wailed, shields plunging to 50. Come on, she breathed, clutching the console. Jax's hands shook on controls, but he held true. A colossal surge flared the feed. Marco wrenched the valve as it struck. Vents blasted in measured fury, plasma clashing in a searing blaze that shoved the nomad free. The ship bolted into clear space, shuddering in victory. Marco's breaths rasped over comms. Valves locked. Reel me in before I roast. Elena sank into her chair as Jax let out a quiet whoop. They'd escaped, but the core was wrecked. Repairs would devour time, cargo integrity frayed. The galaxy might crave them now, but the path ahead loomed brutal. Far from gentle. Elena gripped the armrests of her command chair as the Vanguard shuddered along the nebula's rim. The viewport brimmed with swirling purples and silvers, like embers from a fading blaze, but her focus pinned the sensor feeds. Marco stooped at his console, fingers weaving holographic keys, grumbling about faulty flux relays. Lyrax hovered in the low-grav bay, tendrils quivering, bioluminescent skin flickering uneasy blue. Captain, distress beacon confirmed, Marco said, voice piercing the engine drone. He leaned back, dabbing sweat, forcing a grin that fell short. Krell outpost at Epsilon 7. Core stabilizers toast, station spiraling toward the black hole's disk. Elena's jaw locked. The galaxy had scorned humanity decades past, branding them rash primitives after the resource wars. Now veil storms tore hyperspace routes, forcing every power to scramble. The Krell, those crystalline overlords, had spurned Earth's alliance bids. Yet desperation forged new tales. Time to Horizon? 48 hours max, Marco answered, swiveling to her. Remote patch, reroute their grid. Simple unless their tech's too weird. Lyrax's tendrils coiled, signaling doubt she'd come to recognize. Krell protocols are layered. Human resourcefulness impresses, but defenses could deem intrusion hostile. Hail first. She inclined her head, thoughts leaping forward. The Vanguard stood as humanity's final scout, a scavenger's patchwork. One slip and they'd scatter to the debris. Channel open, Lyrax. See if arrogance bends to fear. Comms hissed alive. A holographic Krell admin shimmered into view, tall, quartz-faceted voice chiming deep. Unidentified craft, declare origin. Restricted zone. Captain Elena Reyes, Terran Alliance, she replied evenly. Beacon response. Prepare for engineering aid. Silence stretched, hologram wavering like mid-consult. Then, Terran? Concord deemed your species irrelevant. Why meddle? Marco huffed quietly. Elena silenced him with a glance. Black holes don't discriminate. Coordinates set. Allow the assist. The Krell's facets cycled hues, vexation likely. Accepted. Protocol breach invites. Connection severed. Elena breathed out, facing Marco. Showtime, wizard. He cracked knuckles, infiltrating firewalls with a shipyard-honed hack. Systems linked, humming seamless. Power shifted. Stabilizers reignited. Hope flickered in Elena. Alarm shattered it. Console sparked, Marco's feed shattering to noise. What? Defenses ejected us. Purging our code like plague. Lyrax's glow surged red. As cautioned. Krell weave kill switches. Their hastening drift, evacuating high ranks, dooming the rest. Elena's fists balled. Sensors caught the outpost tumbling swifter, life signs spiking in chaos. Dozens aboard, Krell and allies, teetering on the brink. Options. Marco's expression hardened, human defiance igniting his gaze. Manual run. EVA tethered to hull hardline bypass. Deadly risk, radiation fries electronics. She rose, sealing her suit. We go. Lyrax oversee from bridge. Keep hailing. Nebula light through shadows as they reached the airlock. Elena shouldered the galaxy's old indifference to her kind, not just this outpost but the long quiet. One save wouldn't erase it, but it cracked the door. Or sealed their tomb. The airlock cycled. They jetted out, outpost hulking like a maimed creature against the black hole's jaws. Marco's comm buzzed. First node, 30 meters starboard. Quick march, event horizon's no vacation spot. Elena tweaked thrusters, vacuums chill gnawing her suit. A single misfire and humanity's comeback died unborn. Elena gripped the console as the shuttle quaked, viewport framing a warp-twisted void of wreckage and phantom stars. Marco cursed softly, hands racing the auxiliary board, shunting life support to the sputtering engines. No glitch, Capnav spitting the cords like venom. She glanced sharply. The envoy Thaler curled in the jump seat, scales lackluster under emergency reds, tentacles fidgeting. He'd vowed a smooth core world route, diplomatic shuttle with elite access. Instead, the outer rim birthed this snare, an unseen field clamping like jaws. Options. Elena pressed, tone unyielding amid the hull's mounting strain. Marco mopped his brow. Warp abort early, crawl to nearest relay. 2 days detour, unknowns lurking. Or force it, core burnout likely. Thaler's rasp scraped like autumn leaves. Precautionary field. Collective raised at post, your departure. Blocks unsanctioned re-entry. Elena's stare hardened. Our departure? You mean after deeming humans obsolete just before your plague gutted the fleets? She cut his falter short. The shuttle bucked. Alarms wailed as surge lit the cabin in pulsing crimson. Core thermal, Marco called, hitting manual override. Sparks erupted. He recoiled, swearing. The scheme, slip in via Thaler's codes, join resistance, shattered then. Blind, they veered toward an uncharted nebula primed to flay them. Elena unstrapped, seizing the yoke. No permissions. Marco manual helm. Thaler's secrets out, now. The alien paused, then tentacled a concealed comm, murmuring alien syllables. A weak pulse replied, tattered coordinates, authentic. Elena fed them in, the shuttle groaned, swerving from the dying warp. The nebula swelled, a radiant barrier veiling perils untold. Hours melted into taut watch. Marco mended amid exhaustion, his barbs muted. Recall the freighter fix with gum and hope? He rasped at last. Worse here. Elena nodded, scanners her vigil. A shadow stirred at the nebula's brink, patrol drones, collective hunters, scenting prey. Thaler's intel soured fast, the field trapped, hurting to slaughter. Evade Delta, she snapped, banking fierce. The shuttle plunged, engines shrieking as the lead drone targeted. Thaler gripped tight, apologies lost to incoming blasts. A graze tore sensors and fiery spray. Marco phoned the breach, face ashen. Otmo leak. No breakout soon, we break. Elena's grip held firm, charting a wild slingshot past a gas chunk. Drones hounded, unyielding but rigid, predictable. She feinted port, slashed starboard, luring to dense clouds. One snagged plasma, blooming silently. Others wavered, blinded. Elena maxed throttle. The shuttle burst through, scarred, feel the receding hum. Toll remained. Marco's arm blistered from sparks, crudely wrapped. Thaler's bond strained, his kin would shun them post-breach. Core worlds neared, no warmer, and Elena pondered if the galaxy summons merely reeled humans into inferno. Captain Ilera Voss gripped the armrests of her command chair, the Endeavor's engines thrumming like a faint pulse through the deck. The view screen crackled with nebula haze, a poisonous shroud that had claimed 3 scout drones in the past hour. Her crew, lean survivors of humanity's final stellar bid, eyed her, weariness honing their stares. Lieutenant Kai Ren, the lean engineer forever squinting at blueprints, tapped his board. Interference thickening, cap blind past a kilometer. If that alien pings from within, we're navigating blind trust. Ilera nodded, jaw firm. Trust had propelled them from forsaken colonies, where elder races had relegated humans to crude afterthoughts amid quantum leaps and mind webs. Now those powers beamed frantic calls, pleading for the grit forged to mend their flawless failures. She eyed Dr. Mira Solis, the xenobiologist whose poise veiled a razor intellect. Mira tweaked her glasses, scanning fractured data. Signal echoes archives, genuine distress. But the nebula's makeup, it's evolving, countering our probes. Evolving? Kai scoffed, sweat-streaked. Bridge recyclers labored against shield heat. Fantastic sentient fog. Your call? Ilera unbuckled, pacing the tight confines. The Endeavor was no polished vessel, a scavenger's defiance, humanity's refusal to dim. We outpace it. Kai shunned auxiliary to sensors, pulse bursts. Mira matched to signal tones. If it's pleading, we reply our way. The initial pulse slashed the nebula in stark lines, unveiling ghosts, crystal towers piercing clouds, and ancient stations husk. Echoes boomeranged, alarms erupted. Ionized plasma whipped out, raking the hull in a teeth-jarring screech. Kai swore, hands blurring. Shield 60. It's hitting back, aiming pulses. Ilera dropped to her seat, keen comms. All brace. Helm evade, zag left, plunge. The ship twisted through murk, groaning. Mira leaned in, voice level in turmoil. Signals frequency dancing. Guiding us? Sinking to our beat. Kai's eyes flared. Nebula's no foe, the station's rigged, ancient trap. Plasma coils swelled, serpents roused. Ilera connected dots. The star's old jeer at human brute cunning, now twisted rescue. Disregard snares. Lock guidance, full thrust. The Endeavor lunged, engines bellowing rebellion. A last strike grazed the nacelle, panels sparking, but they pierced, to a pocket where the station crouched, fissured and leaking power. Docks clamped with resonant finality. Ilera rose, toolkit in hand. Suits on. We're entering. Humanity returns, time they recall our worth. Kai's grin pierced his dread. Mira assented, wariness bending to purpose. Airlock sighed to a ruined hull, ozone-laden, the signal's soft plea humming. They advanced, beams slicing dark, the press of lost cosmos near. Elena gripped the armrests of her command chair, the Vanguard's engines thrumming like a faint pulse through the deck. The view screen stuttered static, teasing the shattered nebula, a boneyard of war relics, hulls warped like ancient skeletons. Jax bent at her side console, fingers weaving holograms, sweat chilling in the air's bite. No relay response yet, Mira noted from navigation, tone even but threaded with the vigilance that spanned 3 jumps. She nudged her glasses, eyeing sensors. Blind thrust here risks hull gouging on Rex. Elena nodded, jaw locked. Encrypted pleas from core worlds had summoned them, frantic bids for human aid as the quantum cascade wrecked their grids. Irrelevant, the borders had slammed a century back. Now AI empires faltered, craving mortal cunning. Trust remained scarce. Adapt or perish. Jax boost forward shields. Mira microjump, tightest clear path. Jax flashed a grin, eyes shadowed. Adapting eye. But she's moaning like she ate a singularity. Bad pulse, we're stardust. He sequenced, the ship lurched, dampeners straining. Alarms rang as debris sparked shields, energy blooms flickering void ward. Scheme stark, dock relay, upload humanity's scavenged stabilizer code. It could tame the cascade, arm aliens for survival. But, cresting the nebula, the station hulkied. Not beacon but wreckage, limbs crooked, plasma bleeding. Dark. No welcome. Life signs. Elena queried, unstrapping. Mira shook head. Wait. Autos might bite. Not deserted, sabotaged. Jax cursed, summoning blueprints. Hitters knew weak spots. Our code's useless if clamps melt. Elena stood, boots magnet locking softly. Command's burden deepened, bonds straining under duress. Home fleet comms had glitched hours prior. Too neat. Suits. EVA boarding. Force entry if needed. Galaxy calls, we kicked the door. Helmet sealed, ship trembled anew, profounder quake. Jax's board flared, inbounds not junk. Sleek alien drones swarmed station shades, wasps enraged. Infiltration soured. Elena's heart raced, voice steady on comms. Evasive Mira. Jax, countermeasures hot. No retreat. The Vanguard wheeled, lasers scattering Vanguard, but hordes surged, locks painting hull red. Cockpit tension knotted. Mira dodged razor close, seconds from doom. Jax rigged an emitter, quips hushed in concentration. Elena tracked the lethal ballet, nebula light ghosting visors. A drone nicked wing, ripping sensors, spinning them wild. Alarms howled, Elena honed sharper. AUX to thrusters. Mira, debris veil. Ship plowed nebula dregs, drones stalking. Jax's emitter zapped a swarm, granting air. Toll climbed, integrity falling, recyclers taxed from breach. Stabilizing, station unveiled, rigged trap, echo of humans as lingering peril. Elena exhaled, faceplate misting faint. Shift, board aft, vent cut to engineering. Riskier but entry. Mira paused, caution voicing soft dissent. Trap odds. Jax added, tone feigned light, taut. Then we trigger as one. Human style. Full suits on, boots and cutters primed, airlock yielded to vacuum's hold. Unspoken shadow, misstep and the Vanguard, soul tether, joined the graves. But yielding wasn't blood deep. Jetting stationward, Elena sensed fate's tug rough and relentless into the storm. Elena gripped the observation deck railing, knuckles blanched on chill metal. Stars streaked past the viewport in uncaring blurs, but console alerts commanded her stare. Status, she snapped, voice firm against gut twist. Kai hunched at the stuttering hollow, fingers blurring interface. Anomalies bloating quick, black hole with vendetta swallowing relay sequential. 10 minutes to AUX drive shunt, or we're history. His barbs dulled to strain, sarcasm fled. Jax surfaced from lower panel, grease-wiped brow. Patched max cap alien blueprints are hell. Built for parade not grit. His wary gaze met hers. Forward risks fleet. Abort? No. Elena's verdict cut clean, forged in outpost instincts. Stars had shelved them as fossils, crude in precision's realm. Now void storm crumbling nets, they craved human repair. Pride or dread wouldn't sway her. Adapt. Kai splice old colony shielding, rough but it might grip. Kai nodded, fire rekindling. Rough's my specialty. 5 to wire core. Jax physical link, lock it. They immersed, ship quaked, hull moaning deep. Alarms keened, reds bathing urgency. Elena tracked feeds, anomaly lashes claiming another node in muted blaze. Toll accrued, colonies cut off, routes snapped. Failure here doomed billions, humans among the fallen. And the aliens alike. Jax grunted from the floor, sparks flying as he fused cables. This better work. Last time we improvised like this, I lost half my toolkit to a plasma leak. Focus, Elena said, but she squeezed his shoulder briefly, a silent acknowledgement. Camaraderie wasn't taught in galactic academies, it was forged in the grit of impossible odds. The ship lurched again, harder this time, throwing Kai against the console. He cursed in Hindi, scrambling back up. Power surge incoming. It's probing us, testing weaknesses. Elena's mind raced. The initial plan had been elegant. Slip through the storm's edge, deploy stabilizers. But the void had evolved, adapting like a living thing. No more dancing around it. Divert everything to forward shields. We punched straight through. Jax's head snapped up. That'll fry the engines. Trust me. Her voice carried the weight of command, the bravery that had pulled her team from Earth's ruins. They moved as one, fingers flying, voices overlapping in clipped urgency. The hum of the ship built to a roar, the viewport filling with swirling darkness. Tendrils of energy clawed at the hull, screeching against the improvised barrier. Kai hooped as the shielding held, a patchwork of human ingenuity glowing defiantly. "We're through." "Barely, but..." A final jolt ripped through, consoles sparking, lights dimming. Silence fell, broken only by their ragged breaths. The anomaly receded behind them, but the damage was done. One engine offline, comms garbled. They'd survived, but the path ahead was longer, the stakes heavier. Elena straightened, meeting their eyes. "We keep going." "For all of them." Elena gripped the railing of the observation deck, her knuckles whitening as the stars blurred into streaks outside the viewport. The Endeavour's engines hummed a low protest, pushing them deeper into the uncharted nebula where the distress signal had originated. Jax tinkered with a holographic display beside her, his fingers dancing over the controls, muttering about quantum fluctuations that made the readings jump like startled fish. "See that?" Jax said, pointing to a spike on the graph. "The anomaly's feeding on the relay network. If we don't sever the connection soon, it'll swallow half the sector's comms." Zira, hovering in her containment field nearby, flickered her bioluminescent patterns in agitation, deep blues rippling across her gelatinous form. "Your human probes are too fragile for this." The entity adapts. It consumed the last 3 without a trace. Elena shot her a glance, the weight of command settling heavier on her shoulders. They had come this far on a gamble. The Galaxy's Council, in their infinite wisdom, had exiled humanity decades ago, branding them irrelevant relics unfit for the enlightened Union. Now, with their precious hyperlanes collapsing under this invisible predator, those same voices begged for the barbarians to return. Pride stung, but survival didn't negotiate. "Probes are what we've got," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the knot in her gut. "Unless you want to volunteer that fancy physiology of yours." Zira's lights pulsed a sharp amber, her equivalent of a scoff. "I am diplomat, not suicide pod." Jax chuckled, wiping grease from his hands on his jumpsuit. "Easy, both of you. I've rigged a feedback loop in the next probe. It'll mimic the anomaly's signature, draw it in, then overload with a gravitic pulse. Like baiting a hook with its own reflection." The plan sounded solid in the Sims, but Elena had seen enough field ops to know theory crumbled fast. She nodded anyway. "Launch it. And prep the evasion pattern. If this backfires, we're not sticking around to applaud." As the probe ejected into the nebulous swirling gases, Elena watched the feed on the main screen. The device darted forward, its emitters pulsing in sync with the anomaly's erratic waves. For a moment it worked. The entity latched on, tendrils of distorted space coiling around the probe like spectral vines. "Gotcha," Jax whispered, leaning in. Then the screen glitched. The probe's signal warped, inverting colors into a nauseating negative. Alarms blared as the Endeavor shuddered, artificial gravity flickering. Zira's field destabilized, sending her form sloshing against the barriers. "It's countering," Jax yelled, slamming overrides. "The loop's reversing, it's pulling us in." Elena hit the comms. "All hands brace. Evasive maneuvers now." The ship lurched, thrusters firing in a desperate spiral. But the anomaly had teeth. It yanked at their hull, shearing off external sensors in a shower of sparks. Elena stumbled, catching herself on the console as red lights bathed the deck. The probe was gone, and with it their best shot. Worse, the nebulous clouds thickened, hiding escape vectors. Zira stabilized, her voice modulator crackling. "I warned you. Human ingenuity is bold, but this is beyond." "Not yet," Elena growled, forcing calm into her tone. She pulled up the damaged schematics, mind racing. Jax was already rerouting power, sweat beading on his brow. They needed a new angle, something raw, unpolished, the kind of fix the galaxy had forgotten humans excelled at. As the anomaly closed in, its gravitational maw yawning wider, Elena spotted a faint echo on the secondary scans. A derelict station half buried in the gas clouds. Abandoned tech may be salvageable. Risky, but it beat drifting into oblivion. "Helm, plot a course for that wreck," she ordered. Jax, you're with me on the EVA suits. Zira, keep the shields up, buy us time. Jax met her eyes, a wry grin cracking through the tension. Into the belly of the beast, huh? Just like old times. Old times we survived, Elena said, clapping his shoulder. But as they suited up, the ship's groans echoing like warnings, she couldn't shake the doubt. The galaxy wanted them back, all right, but at what price? The stars outside twisted mockingly, indifferent to their scramble. Captain Alara Voss gripped the console, her knuckles white against the humming interface of the relic's dawn. The ship's alarms had quieted to a low whine, but the damage reports scrolling across her screen painted a grim picture. Hull breaches sealed, but the auxiliary engines were sputtering like a dying beast. She glanced at Jax, her wiry engineer, who was elbow-deep in a tangle of conduits, sparks flying from his makeshift repairs. "Status?" she asked, voice steady despite the sweat beading on her forehead. Jax wiped his brow with a grimy sleeve, not looking up. "Engines at 40%. We push her harder, she'll tear herself apart. That Krell blockade's closing in, 3 cruisers minimum. They're not bluffing this time." Behind them, Lyra, the avian diplomat from the coalition, paced the cramped bridge. Her feathers ruffled with agitation, iridescent blues catching the red emergency lights. She'd been the one to drag them into this mess, pleading for human aid when the galaxy's vaunted alliances crumbled under the Void Swarm's onslaught. Now, doubt flickered in her sharp eyes. "We should transmit the coordinates again. The Council must see reason. Humanity's ingenuity could turn the tide." Alara shot her a look. "Reason? They exiled us, called us relics. Now they cry for help, and we're the ones bleeding for it." But she knew Lyra was right. The swarm's tendrils were devouring outposts faster than the stars could blink out. Without humans, without their stubborn, adaptive grit, the galaxy's polished tech was folding like paper. A jolt rocked the ship, claxons blaring anew. Jax cursed, yanking a wire free. "Incoming fire. Shields at 20. Ilara's hands flew over the controls, banking the dawn into a desperate evasion roll. The viewport filled with the hulking silhouettes of Krell vessels, their energy lances slicing through the void like predatory claws. The Krell, once allies to the coalition, had turned isolationist, hoarding resources while the swarm spread. They saw the humans return as an invasion, not salvation. "Options," Ilara demanded, her mind racing through the ship's logs. The early plan, slipped through the nebula's interference to deliver the human-forged disruptor schematics, had backfired spectacularly. The nebula's gases had masked their approach but amplified the Krell's sensors, turning stealth into a trap. Jack straightened, holding a salvaged power cell. "Rig the disruptor prototype as a decoy. Overload it in the nebula, create a false energy bloom. Might buy us time to punch through their line." Lyra squawked in protest. "That's our only weapon against the swarm. We can't, it's adapt or die," Ilara cut in, already plotting the maneuver. She valued Lyra's insight, the way her coalition knowledge filled the gaps in human intuition. But hesitation was a luxury they didn't have. "Jax, do it. Lyra, get on comms. Hail the lead cruiser. Tell them we're carrying coalition envoys, not weapons." As Jax dove back into the wiring, Lyra activated the transmitter, her voice modulating to the formal tones of interstellar diplomacy. "Krell Command, this is Diplomat Lyra of the United Coalition. We seek passage to deliver critical data. Cease fire, parley is possible." Static crackled, then a gravelly voice responded in guttural bursts. "Human vessel. You trespass. Data means nothing. Swarm takes all. Power down or be culled." Ilara's jaw tightened. "No parley then?" She nodded to Jax. "Now." He slammed a panel shut, and the ship shuddered as the prototype disruptor hummed to life in the cargo bay. Ilara fired auxiliary thrusters, veering toward the nebula's edge. The overload built, a pulsing glow visible even from the bridge. The Krell cruisers hesitated, their lances pausing as sensors locked onto the bloom. "They're biting," Jax muttered, monitoring the readings. "But it's unstable, 10 seconds max before it blows." The Dawn surged forward, engines straining against the gravitational pull. Ilara wove through debris fields, her focus laser-sharp, Every correction a testament to years of piloting junkers through worse than this. Lyra clutched a railing, her taloned feet scraping the deck. If this fails, the Council loses everything. Humanity's exile? It was a mistake, but trust is fragile. Noted, Ilara replied through gritted teeth, not sparing her a glance. Trust was earned in the fire, not words. The nebula loomed, a swirling cauldron of ionized gas that could fry their systems. But it was their only shot. The disruptor detonated in a brilliant cascade, the false bloom erupting like a newborn star. The Krell cruisers veered toward it, weapons charging into the illusion. For a heartbeat, the path cleared. Go, go! Jax yelled, slapping the engine overrides. Ilara punched the throttles, the dawn leaping into the nebula's heart. Alarms screamed as shields buckled under the radiation. But they broke through, emerging on the far side with a final, groaning lurch. The Krell fire resumed too late, lances glancing off the dissipating clouds. Panting, Ilara slumped back, scanning for pursuit. Clear for now. But the prototype was gone, sacrificed. Jax slumped beside her, exhausted. We made it. But without that disruptor, how do we face the swarm? Lyra's feathers smoothed slightly, a tentative hope in her gaze. The schematics are intact. And you've shown them, us, what humans do best. Adapt. Ilara met her eyes. The weight of the galaxy's Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrests of her command chair, the hum of the Odyssey's engines vibrating through her bones like a distant earthquake. The view screen flickered with the debris field ahead, a graveyard of shattered alien hulls, remnants of the Vorith swarm's latest assault. Her crew, down to just 3 now, herself, the ever-optimistic engineer Jax, and the reluctant Krellian defector Mira, who piloted with feathers ruffled in perpetual anxiety. Scans show the core rift widening, Jax said, his voice steady over the intercom from engineering. He wiped sweat from his brow, tools clinking as he patched another failing conduit. If we don't seal it in the next hour, the whole sector collapses. Pulls in half the arm. Ilara nodded, though no one could see it. The galaxy had cast humanity aside decades ago, calling them relics in an age of quantum harmonies and neural links. But now, with the Voritha's entropy engines unraveling reality itself, those same species begged for the primitive grit that built ships from scrap and minds that bent rules instead of breaking under them. The Odyssey was their last hope, a human relic jury-rigged with scavenged tech. Myra's claws tapped the controls, veering sharply to avoid a tumbling asteroid fragment. This is madness, Voss. The swarm's guardians are converging. We can't thread this needle. We have to, Ilara replied, her tone clipped but warm, the kind that had kept her team alive through worse. She remembered the broadcast from the Galactic Council, their holographic envoys pleading, humanity's return is our salvation. Irony tasted bitter, but victory would be sweeter. The ship shuddered as a Vorith drone latched onto the hull, its tendrils probing for weak points. Alarms blared, red lights painting the bridge in blood hues. Ilara slammed the override, diverting power to shields. Jax, give me options. Something that doesn't involve becoming space dust. From below, Jax's laugh barked through static. Always the charmer. Rerouting the auxiliary drive, it's unstable, but if we pulse it right, we create a gravitic echo. Bounces the drones off like magnets on a fridge. Mira squawked, banking hard. Echo? You'll tear us apart. Better than waiting for the rift to do it, Ilara shot back. She trusted Jax's wild fixes. He'd MacGyvered a warp coil from garden hoses back on the colony runs. Her fingers danced over the console, syncing the pulse. The drone's grip faltered, screeching as it flung away into the void, vanishing into the debris storm. But the rift loomed larger now, a yawning maw of warped stars, edges fraying like torn fabric. Scans lit up with more guardians, sleek, biomechanical horrors closing in from 3 vectors. Ilara's mind raced, piecing together Myra's earlier intel. The Vorith fed on entropy, but their cores resonated with harmonic frequencies, vulnerable to dissonance. Harmonics, she muttered. The aliens had laughed at human music, called it noise. But noise could shatter crystal. Mira, plot a slingshot around that pulsar remnant. Jax, modulate the engines to broadcast a counterwave, scramble their resonance with something raw. Old Earth rock if you have to. Jax hooped. Riffing the classics? You're on. The Odyssey dove, engines roaring in protest. Myra's feathers smoothed for the first time, her piloting precise as she skimmed the pulsar's gravitational whip. The ship groaned, bulkheads creaking but held. From the speakers, a gritty guitar riff blasted, raw, defiant, laced into the engine's output. The Guardians faltered, their formations breaking as the wave hit, hulls vibrating until seams split. One Guardian exploded in a silent bloom of plasma, lighting the bridge in fleeting blue. But the lead ship adapted, firing an entropy lance that grazed the Odyssey's flank. Hull integrity dropped to 47%. Ilara felt the jolt in her teeth, tasting blood from a bitten lip. Direct hit on the cargo bay, Jax reported, urgency creeping in. Lost the spare parts. We're flying on fumes now. The rift pulsed, sucking in a nearby moonlet, its surface cracking like eggshell. Stakes pressed heavier. Fail here, and the Council's plea became a dirge for trillions. Ilara leaned forward, eyes locked on the core. One more push. Mira, get us inside the event horizon, close as you can. Jax, prime the seal. Myra's voice trembled but held firm. For the galaxy that scorned you? Why? Because we build when they break, Ilara said simply and punched the throttle. The ship hurtled forward, the rifts howled, drowning the engines. Debris whipped past, a meteor shower of ruin. Inside the threshold, time stretched, colors inverting in the strain. Jax's counterseal deployed, a makeshift field generator, human ingenuity wrapped in alien casings, humming against the chaos. Caught. The rift's edges stabilized, inching closed as the wave propagated. Guardians scattered, their harmony shattered by the human discord. But the Odyssey listed, power flickering, a final Guardian's parting shot venting atmosphere from the rear. As the rift sealed with a cosmic sigh, Ilara exhaled, slumping back. The viewscreen cleared to stars, intact for now. Jax's voice crackled, "We did it." Barely. Mira turned, eyes wide with something like awe. "Your kind, irrelevant? Never again." But the console beeped, structural warnings, cascading failures. The return home would cost them more than pride. Ilara smiled grimly. Earned triumph always did. The dim hum of the auxiliary engines vibrated through the deck plating as Captain Ilara Voss gripped the armrest of her command chair, her knuckles whitening against the worn leather. The bridge of the relentless dawn felt smaller than ever, cluttered with holographic displays flickering erratically from the strain of the improvised warp field. Beside her, Engineer Tomas Hale hunched over a jury-rigged console, his fingers dancing across exposed circuits, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill of recycled air. "It's holding barely," he muttered, voice tight. "But if that singularity pulse hits us again, we're paced." Across the compartment, Lieutenant Kira Novak paced, her boots thudding softly against the grated floor. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, flicked between the viewport, where the swirling maw of the galactic core loomed like a predator's jaw, and the tactical readout showing the alien armada closing in. The Zifri fleet, once dismissive of human primitives, now hunted them with a desperation born of their own unraveling empire. "They've cut off our flank," she said, stopping to jab a finger at the holomap. "3 cruisers vectoring in from the nebula. We can't outrun them in this tub." Ilara nodded, her jaw set in that familiar line of quiet resolve. She'd led salvage runs through worse scrapes back when humanity was just a footnote in the galaxy's archives, exiled to the outer rims after the Concordance Wars deemed them too volatile, too inventive for the sanitized peace. Now, with the core worlds choking on their own engineered plagues, those same worlds begged for human grit. But begging came with strings, and the Zifri weren't the type to negotiate. "Options?" she asked, her voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. Tomas glanced up, wiping his brow with the back of his hand, leaving a smear of grease. "We could vent the plasma relays, buy us a microjump through the singularity's edge. Risky as hell, might shear us in half." He paused, eyes narrowing at the readings. "Or we adapt their own tech against them. Remember that derelict we scavenged? The phase disruptor core. If I can sink it to our shields." Kira snorted, crossing her arms. "And if it backfires? We light up like a supernova, and the whole fleet knows exactly where we are." Her caution was her anchor, the counterweight to Ilara's boldness and Tomas's wild ideas. But even she felt the pull of necessity. The dawn carried the last viable counteragent to the plague ravaging the core, synthesized from human biotech the aliens had scorned as barbaric. Lose it and billions died. Lose the ship, and humanity's fragile resurgence ended before it began. The ship shuddered as the first Zifiri volley grazed their hull, alarms blaring in sharp staccato bursts. Ilara rose, her movements fluid despite the adrenaline surge. Tomas prepped the disruptor. Kira, plot a course that hugs the singularity, make them chase us into the gravity well. She met their eyes, the unspoken bond forged in years of scraping by on forgotten worlds passing between them. No speeches, just the weight of what they'd built from nothing. Tomas dove back into the wiring, sparks flying as he spliced conduits with a precision born of desperation. Give me 2 minutes. And pray the old girl's bones hold. Kira slid into the NAV station, her fingers flying over the controls, weaving a path through the core's treacherous tides. The viewport filled with the eerie glow of accretion disks, a ballet of light and shadow that hid teeth of warped spacetime. Ilara watched the armada tighten its noose, their sleek vessels glinting like predators in the void. The Zifiri broadcast still echoed in her implants, pleas laced with commands, demanding the counteragent in exchange for reintegration. As if humanity hadn't heard that lie before. She tapped the comms, her voice broadcasting on open channels. This is Voss of the Relentless Dawn. You want salvation? Earn it. We're not your salvage. A ripple passed through the fleet's formation, hesitation flickering like a glitch in their perfect symmetry. Tomas hooped as the disruptor hummed to life, a low thrum that resonated in their chests. Online. Shields phasing, it's working. But the singularity belched a pulse, a wave of distorted reality that buckled the dawn as frame. Consoles sparked and Kira cursed as the NAV locks failed. We're drifting, straight into the event horizon. The ship groaned, metal protesting as gravity clawed at its edges. Ilara braced against the tilt, her mind racing through fragments of forgotten lore, human probes that had danced with black holes long before the exile. Tomas reversed the polarity on the disruptor. Use it to slingshot us out. It was a gamble, pulling from half-remembered texts, but her crew didn't question. Tomas nodded, rerouting power with frantic efficiency, while Kira stabilized what she could, her face pale but determined. The pulse hit, and for a heartbeat the universe inverted. Stars smeared into streaks, the armada vanishing in a haze of warped light. Alarms wailed, then silenced as systems overloaded. When reality snapped back, the dawn hurtled free, tumbling into clearer space, the singularity receding like a sated beast. Kira exhaled, slumping in her seat. We made it. But the fleet's regrouping, 2 light minutes and closing. Damage reports scrolled, hull breaches sealed, but the counteragent labs compromised, vials shattering in the shake. A portion lost, irreplaceable without time they didn't have. Ilara straightened, scanning the read. Captain Ilara Voss gripped the helm of the Endurance, her knuckles white against the worn controls. The bridge hummed with the low thrum of engines pushing beyond their limits, every bulkhead groaning under the strain. Below, the ragtag fleet of salvaged ships, humanity's last gasp, formed a ragged line against the swirling maw of the Nexus storm. The alien armada, a glittering horde of crystalline vessels from the coalition worlds, had finally broken through their own hesitation, their weapons charging in a synchronized glow that lit the void like a false dawn. They're committing fully, murmured Jax, her chief engineer, from the comm station. His voice crackled over the internal line, laced with that wry edge he never lost even now. Shields at 47%. If we take another hit like that last one, we're vapor. Ilara didn't look up. Her eyes stayed locked on the tactical display, where red icons swarmed like angry insects. The plan had been simple, too simple maybe, lure the coalition into the storm's heart, where their precise formations would shatter against the chaotic gravity wells. But the storm had other ideas. It had pulled in more than ships, it had warped the fabric of space itself, turning their clever trap into a desperate scramble. 2 human vessels already drifted silent, their crews lost to the unpredictable riptides. Status on the relay? She asked, her tone steady, the kind of calm that came from too many close calls. Jax's face appeared on the split screen, smudged with grease and sweat. Patching the final overrides now. The Coalition's core network is brittle as old bone. Your idea to spoof their auth codes is holding, but it's like threading a needle in a hurricane. One more surge and... He trailed off as the ship lurched. Alarms blared, sharp and insistent. Ilara braced against the console, tasting blood from where she'd bitten her lip. The storm's tendrils lashed out, a whip of ionized plasma that scored the hull. On the display, a Coalition cruiser fragmented, its elegant lines crumpling like foil. Got it. Jax whooped, punching the air. Relays live. Their fleet's blind, commands looping back on themselves. Ilara allowed herself a tight smile. It was the grit of it, the human knack for turning scraps into salvation. While the aliens relied on their vast, interconnected webs of data and harmony, humanity had jury-rigged a virus from outdated human tech, something as analog as a handshake in the digital age. No grand symphony of AI overlords, just code born from late-night hacks and forgotten colonies. But victory wasn't clean. The Endurance shuddered again, life support flickering. Reroute power to forward shields, she ordered. And get me Lena on the line. The xenobiologist's face popped up, her lab coat askew, eyes wide behind her visor. She'd been the one to map the storm's anomalies, spotting the harmonic frequencies that could stabilize it, if they timed it right. Ilara, the pulse is ready. But it'll take everything we've got. The backlash could rip us apart. Do it, Ilara said, meeting her gaze. Lena had always been the cautious one, weighing risks like stones in her palm, but here she was, nodding with that fierce determination that bound them all. As Lena initiated the sequence, the bridge lights dimmed, the hum of the ship deepening to a growl. Ilara watched the display, Coalition ships veering wildly, their once unified front dissolving into chaos. Orders contradicted, engines misfired, weapons targeted phantoms. In the storm's eye, the human fleet held formation, not perfect but stubborn, each captain calling adjustments over open channels, voices overlapping in a babble of grit and trust. The pulse fired. A ripple of blue energy bloomed from the Endurance, threading through the storm like veins of light. The chaos calmed, gravity wells smoothing just enough for escape vectors to open. Alien vessels stabilized too late. Dozens plummeted into the calmed but still treacherous depths, their hulls shearing apart in silent blooms of debris. Ilara exhaled, slumping back as the immediate alarms quieted. The fleet was pulling out, battered but intact. Jax's voice came through lighter now. We did it, Cap. They're scattering like roaches in the light. But as the stars steadied on the view screen, Ilara's comms lit up with an incoming hail, not from the remnants of the Armada, but from the Coalition's Central Council. The face that appeared was an elder of the Vexery, its multifaceted eyes dimmed with something like awe. Humans, it intoned, voice echoing with formal gravitas, your ingenuity has saved us all. The storm would have consumed the core worlds. We require your alliance. Your return. Ilara let the words hang, her jaw set. The galaxy that had cast humanity aside, labeling them chaotic relics unfit for the enlightened union, now begged. But the cost lingered, empty chairs on her bridge, scars on the hull, and the knowledge that trust, once broken, mended crooked. Stand by, she replied, cutting the line. To her crew she said simply, plot course home. We've earned a breather. The Endurance turned toward the distant speck of Sol, a lone light in the vast dark, carrying the weight of what they'd reclaimed, not just survival but relevance on their own unyielding terms.